Christmas morning in Boulder, Colorado. Snow falls gently on million-dollar homes. Children sleep peacefully, surrounded by torn wrapping paper and new toys. But in one house on 15th Street, Christmas joy has turned to terror.
911 emergency.
We need him. Police.
What's going on?
15th Street.
What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey, beauty queen, beloved daughter, missing. What happened that Christmas night would divide a nation, destroy a family, and remain unsolved for nearly 3 decades? But this isn't just a story about a missing child. It's about secrets, lies, and a case that would expose the dark underbelly of the American dream. To understand what happened that night, you have to understand the Ramseys. They weren't just wealthy, they were Boulder royalty. John Ramsey, self-made millionaire, CEO of Access Graphics, a computer distribution company worth over $1 billion. A man who'd built an empire from nothing. But success came at a price. John's first daughter, Elizabeth, died in a car crash in 1992. She was just 22. Patricia Patsy Ramsey, former Miss West Virginia. She'd traded her crown for motherhood, but the spotlight never truly left her. Patsy poured her dreams into her daughter. JonBenet wasn't just beautiful, she was perfect, or so it seemed. The family had everything: the mansion, the success, the perfect children. But perfection, as they would learn, is fragile, because behind closed doors, cracks were beginning to show, and someone was watching. December 24th, 1996. The Ramseys are hosting their annual Christmas party. 40 guests fill their 7,000-square-foot Tudor mansion. JonBenet performs for the crowd. She sings. She dances. She's the center of attention, just like her mother taught her. But someone at this party knows something. Someone has been planning, watching, waiting. The guest list included family friends, business associates, neighbors. People the Ramseys trusted, people who knew their routines, their secrets. By 10 p.m., the last guest has left. The family heads to bed. JonBenet falls asleep in the car on the way home from another Christmas gathering. John carries her upstairs. It's the last time he'll hold his daughter alive. Christmas night. The house is quiet. JonBenet sleeps in her bedroom on the 2nd floor. Her parents are down the hall. Her brother Burke, age 9, is in his room playing with new Christmas toys. Sometime between 10 p.m. and dawn, evil enters this home. But how? The basement window. John later claims he broke it months earlier during a lockout. But investigators find fresh glass, undisturbed spider webs, evidence that suggests this entry point is staged. Or maybe evil was already inside. Someone who knew the house, who moved through these halls like a ghost. What happens next defies explanation. A child disappears from her own bedroom. No screams wake the family. No signs of struggle in her room. But in the basement, in a small, windowless room, something unspeakable is happening. Something that will haunt investigators for decades. 5:45 a.m. Patsy Ramsey walks down her spiral staircase to make coffee. At the bottom of the stairs, she finds something that stops her cold. A ransom note, 3 pages, 374 words, written on paper from inside the Ramsey home. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We have your daughter. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. The note demands $118,000, the exact amount of John's previous year's bonus. A detail only someone close to the family would know. But this isn't just any ransom note. It's bizarre, lengthy, full of movie quotes and pop culture references. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. Foreign faction in Boulder, Colorado. At 5:52 a.m., Patsy calls 911, but she makes a critical error. The ransom note specifically warns, if we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies.
A kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Within minutes, police flood the house. The Ramseys have broken the kidnapper's most important rule. But what police don't know yet is this: there are no kidnappers. And JonBenet isn't missing. She's already dead, in her own basement. The Boulder Police Department responds to what they believe is a kidnapping. Officer Rick French is first on scene. French makes his initial sweep of the house. He checks doors, windows, the basement. He even opens the door to the wine cellar where JonBenet's body lies. But the room is pitch black. He doesn't turn on the light. He doesn't see the small body in the corner. A decision that will haunt him forever. As morning turns to afternoon, the house fills with friends, family, clergy. The crime scene becomes contaminated. Evidence disappears. Detective Linda Arndt arrives at 8 a.m. She's alone. No backup. No experience with kidnapping cases. She's about to make the most horrific discovery of her career. By 1 p.m., John Ramsey is growing impatient. The kidnappers haven't called. Detective Arndt suggests he and his friend Fleet White search the house again. They start in the basement. John heads straight to the wine cellar. The room Officer French checked that morning. This time he turns on the light. "Oh my God, oh my God!" John Ramsey's scream echoes through the basement. JonBenet lies on the cold concrete floor, covered with a white blanket, duct tape over her mouth, a cord around her neck. John scoops up his daughter's body, carries her upstairs, removes the duct tape from her mouth. In his grief, he's destroying evidence. Detective Arndt watches in horror. She counts the people in the house. 17 adults, 1 policeman. Her. The coroner arrives at 8 p.m. JonBenet has been dead for approximately 15 hours. She died around the time her mother found the ransom note. But the autopsy reveals something even more disturbing. JonBenet didn't just die. She was tortured. Dr. John Meyer performs the autopsy. What he finds defies the ransom note's claim that JonBenet was safe and unharmed. Cause of death: asphyxiation by strangulation. But there's more, much more. JonBenet suffered a massive skull fracture, 8.5 inches long. Someone hit this child with tremendous force. But here's what's puzzling. There's almost no external bleeding. The head injury happened first. She was unconscious but alive when she was strangled. The murder weapon, a garrote. Not a professional tool, but something makeshift. Created from a broken paintbrush from Patsy's art supplies. Cord from the house. This wasn't a kidnapping gone wrong. This was intimate violence. Personal. Rage mixed with an attempt at staging. But the evidence gets stranger. JonBenet's body shows signs of previous sexual abuse. Chronic injuries that suggest a pattern of violence. DNA evidence is found under her fingernails, on her underwear. It doesn't match anyone in the family, but it will take years to analyze properly. The question haunting investigators: who had access to this child? Who knew the house well enough to move through it silently? Who could write a ransom note using inside information about the family? The answer might be closer than anyone imagined. Within 24 hours, the Ramsey case becomes national news. Cable networks interrupt regular programming. The story has everything: wealth, beauty pageants, murder. But behind the media frenzy, Boulder police are focusing on their primary suspects: the parents, John and Patsy Ramsey. Grieving parents or cold-blooded killers? The police can't decide. The evidence seems contradictory. The ransom note is written in Patsy's handwriting style, according to some experts, but she passes police polygraph tests. John's behavior is suspicious. He's calm, too calm for a man who's just lost his daughter. But grief affects everyone differently. There's no forced entry, no footprints in the snow. The killer knew the house intimately, had access to Patsy's notepad, her paintbrush, intimate knowledge of John's finances. But there's a third suspect investigators are reluctant to consider. Someone else who lived in that house. Someone who knew JonBenet's routines, her room, her secrets. Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's older brother, 9 years old, too young to be a killer. Or is he? Forensic pathologist. We cannot ignore the possibility that sibling rivalry in a disturbed child could escalate to violence. Burke Ramsey claims he slept through everything. The 911 call, the police arriving, his sister's murder happening in his own basement. But enhanced audio of the 911 call tells a different story. After Patsy thinks she's hung up, voices continue. John's voice, Patsy's voice, and a third voice, a child's voice.
What's going on there, ma'am?
Burke was awake. he was downstairs, and he was asking questions. Friends described tension between the siblings. Burke had hit JonBenet with a golf club the previous summer. An accident, the family said. Child psychologists who interview Burke note disturbing behavior. He shows no emotion discussing his sister's death. He seems more interested in his Nintendo than the interview. But here's the theory that haunts investigators. What if JonBenet's death was an accident? A fight between siblings that went too far? What if the real crime was the cover-up? A 9-year-old couldn't write the ransom note, couldn't create the elaborate staging, but his parents could. Parents who would do anything to protect their surviving child. But there's another theory, one that's harder to prove but impossible to dismiss. The intruder theory. Someone else was in that house that night. Someone who knew the family but wasn't family. Someone with a key, or someone who knew how to get in undetected. The basement window shows signs of entry. Scuff marks on the wall. A suitcase positioned beneath the window, as if someone used it as a step. I heard a scream around midnight, a child's scream, but it only lasted a few seconds. Neighbors report seeing unfamiliar cars in the area, hearing sounds from the Ramsey house. But police dismiss most of these reports as unreliable. The DNA evidence supports the intruder theory. Male DNA found on JonBenet's underwear and under her fingernails doesn't match anyone in the family. In 2008, this DNA evidence officially clears the Ramsey family. District Attorney Mary Lacey issues a formal apology. But clearing the family doesn't solve the case. If an intruder killed JonBenet, who was it? And how did they know so much about the Ramseys' private life? The answer might lie in the ransom note itself. Those movie quotes, pop culture references, the strange rambling tone. What if the killer wasn't just someone who knew the family? What if they were obsessed with them? A stalker who watched from the shadows, learning their routines, their secrets, their vulnerabilities. Over the years, investigators pursue hundreds of suspects, drifters, sex offenders, disgruntled employees. Each lead seems promising. Each lead goes nowhere. John Mark Carr, a school teacher obsessed with JonBenet's case. In 2006, he confesses to the murder from Thailand. The confession makes international headlines. But Carr's DNA doesn't match. His alibi checks out. Another dead end. Gary Oliva, a convicted pedophile who was near the Ramsey home that night. He confesses multiple times, then recants. His DNA doesn't match either. Bill McReynolds, the elderly man who played Santa at the Ramsey Christmas party. He had access to the house, knew the family routine. But investigators find no concrete evidence. Each suspect raises more questions than answers. Each cleared suspect leaves investigators further from the truth. The case that seemed solvable on December 26, 1996, becomes a labyrinth of false leads, corrupted evidence, and shattered lives. The JonBenet Ramsey case doesn't just capture public attention, it devours it. Cable news networks dedicate entire programs to speculation about the 6-year-old's murder. The pageant videos become national obsession. JonBenet in makeup, singing "I Want to Be a Cowboy's Sweetheart," dancing in sequined costumes. America is divided. Some see an exploited child, sexualized by ambitious parents. Others see a talented little girl living her dreams. The media creates its own narrative. Patsy Ramsey becomes the villain, the stage mother who killed her daughter in a fit of rage. John becomes the accomplice, the businessman who covers up the crime. But the media circus has consequences. Real evidence gets lost in speculation. Witnesses refuse to cooperate. The Ramsey family becomes prisoners in their own lives. In 1998, the Ramseys moved to Atlanta. They're fleeing not just memories, but judgment. A nation that has tried and convicted them without proof. But distance can't heal this wound. The case follows them, defines them, destroys them. June 24, 2006. Patsy Ramsey dies of ovarian cancer at age 49. She never sees her daughter's killer brought to justice. Her final years are consumed by the case. Legal battles, media interviews, private investigators. The search for truth becomes an obsession that costs her everything. The investigation consumes others too. Detective Lou Smith spends his retirement pursuing the intruder theory. He dies in 2010, still believing the Ramseys are innocent. Detective Linda Arndt suffers PTSD from that terrible day. She leaves police work, traumatized by what she witnessed and the investigation that followed. Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner admits mistakes were made. The crime scene was contaminated, evidence was mishandled, the investigation was flawed from the beginning, but acknowledgement of failure doesn't solve the case, doesn't bring justice, doesn't answer the question that haunts everyone involved. Who killed JonBenet Ramsey? 20 years after the murder, technology offers new hope. Advanced DNA testing can analyze smaller samples, create clearer profiles. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation reviews the case with fresh eyes. They retest evidence, pursue new leads. But the DNA profile remains incomplete, insufficient for comparison. Burke Ramsey, now 29, breaks his silence. He gives his first television interview, defending his family, denying involvement.
I know that we were suspects. I didn't know they were camps, I guess.
But the interview raises more questions. Burke's demeanor seems odd, detached. His smile at inappropriate moments disturbs viewers. Public opinion remains divided. Social media explodes with theories, accusations, amateur investigations. The case takes on a life of its own in the digital age. Netflix documentaries, podcast series, books. The JonBenet Ramsey case becomes entertainment, consuming new generations who weren't even born when she died. Today, the house on 15th Street looks different. New owners have renovated, tried to erase the past, but some stains don't wash clean. JonBenet would be 33 years old now. She might have been married, had children of her own. Instead, she remains frozen in time. 6 years old, forever. The case file remains open. Boulder police receive tips regularly. Most are worthless. Some seem promising. None have led to an arrest. But what if the truth isn't what we expect? What if there's no satisfying resolution? What if some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved? The questions multiply instead of diminish. If the Ramseys are innocent, who wrote that ransom note? If an intruder killed JonBenet, how did they know so much about the family? If Burke was involved, why hasn't he broken after decades of scrutiny? If the parents covered up the crime, how have they maintained their story under impossible pressure? Every piece of evidence points somewhere different. Every witness sees something unique. Every expert reaches a different conclusion. JonBenet's death changed America's perception of child beauty pageants. Participation declined. Regulations increased. The innocence was lost. It also changed how police handle crime scenes. The Boulder Police Department's mistakes became textbook examples of how not to investigate a homicide. Law enforcement agencies nationwide study the Ramsey case. They learn about evidence preservation, witness contamination, media management. But perhaps the most lasting impact is on our collective psyche. The case tapped into our deepest fears about childhood, safety, trust. If a child wasn't safe in her own home, on Christmas night, surrounded by family, where is anyone safe? The case revealed uncomfortable truths about wealth and privilege, about how money can't buy protection from evil, about how the American dream can become a nightmare. It showed us the power and danger of media obsession, how speculation can destroy lives as effectively as violence. After nearly 3 decades, the theories haven't decreased. They've multiplied, evolved, taken on lives of their own. Theory 1. Patsy killed JonBenet in a rage over bedwetting. The pageant pressure finally exploded into violence. John helped cover it up to protect his wife and surviving son. Theory 2. Burke killed his sister in a moment of childhood rage. The parents discovered the body and staged an elaborate cover-up, including the ransom note and sexual assault evidence. Theory 3. An intruder, possibly someone who knew the family, entered the house with sexual assault in mind. When JonBenet fought back or screamed, he killed her and staged the scene to confuse police. Each theory has experts who support it passionately. Handwriting analysts, forensic pathologists, criminal profilers. They've studied the same evidence and reached opposite conclusions. The handwriting evidence is disputed. Some experts say Patsy wrote the ransom note. Others say she definitely didn't. The same letters analyzed by different specialists tell different stories. The DNA evidence is contaminated. Mixed profiles from multiple sources. It might exclude the family. It might not mean anything at all. But here's what troubles investigators most: the staging. Whoever killed JonBenet didn't just commit murder. They tried to create a narrative, control the story, direct the investigation, the ransom note, the basement window, the positioning of the body. Everything feels theatrical, performed for an audience of investigators. But staging requires knowledge, time, composure. It suggests someone who understood how police think, how investigations work. Criminal psychologists study the JonBenet case for insights into the mind of her killer. What they find disturbs them. The murder shows signs of both organized and disorganized behavior. The careful planning of the ransom note suggests a methodical killer, but the violent head injury suggests someone who lost control. FBI profilers believe the killer knew JonBenet personally. The intimate nature of the violence, the attempt to cover her body with a blanket. These suggest someone who cared about her, even as they killed her. But the sexual assault tells a different story. It appears staged, performed after death to mislead investigators. This suggests someone trying to hide their true motive. The most chilling possibility, JonBenet was killed by someone she trusted, someone she would have gone with willingly, someone who turned that trust into a weapon. Child psychologists note that JonBenet's pageant career put her in contact with many adults, photographers, judges, other parents. A world where children are evaluated by their appearance, their performance. Was her killer hiding in plain sight, applauding her performances while planning her death? The Boulder Police Department's investigation becomes a masterclass in how not to solve a murder case. Every decision seems wrong in retrospect. They treat it as a kidnapping when it's a murder. They allow the crime scene to be contaminated. They focus on the parents while other leads go cold. But perhaps their biggest mistake, they become emotionally invested in a single theory. The parents did it. Everything else is ignored, dismissed, or explained away. The jurisdictional fighting makes it worse. Boulder Police, the District Attorney's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Each agency has different theories, different priorities. Evidence is lost. Witnesses aren't interviewed properly. Potential suspects slip through the cracks. The investigation fractures into competing camps, each certain they're right. By the time they realize their mistakes, it's too late. The killer has had months, then years to disappear, to destroy evidence, to perfect their story. The case that should have been solved in days becomes a decades-long mystery, not because the crime was perfect, but because the investigation was flawed. Jon Ramsey is 80 years old now. He's remarried, tried to rebuild his life, but the case never leaves him. He continues to push for new DNA testing, for fresh investigation techniques. He believes technology will eventually solve his daughter's murder. Burke Ramsey, now in his 30s, has largely withdrawn from public life. The case defined his childhood, shaped his adult years. He sued CBS for a documentary that suggested his involvement, settling out of court. The extended family scattered. Some still believe in the Ramseys' innocence. Others harbor private doubts. The case didn't just kill JonBenet. It murdered family unity, lifelong friendships, community trust. Boulder, Colorado still carries the scar. The upscale community that prided itself on safety became synonymous with unsolved murder. Property values in the neighborhood dropped. Families moved away. The house itself has changed hands multiple times. Each owner tries to escape the history, but some ghosts refuse to leave. The JonBenet Ramsey case didn't just happen during the rise of 24-hour cable news. It helped create it. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. They all cut their teeth on this story. The case had everything television needed: wealth, beauty, mystery, scandal. It was perfect entertainment disguised as news, but the media coverage had consequences. Rumors became facts. Speculation became evidence. The court of public opinion rendered its verdict long before any legal proceeding. Tabloid magazines paid huge sums for exclusive photos, inside information, anonymous quotes from sources close to the investigation. The Ramseys became celebrities against their will. Their grief was performed for television cameras. Their pain was public consumption. Some media coverage was responsible, factual, but much of it was sensationalized, speculative, sometimes completely false. The truth became secondary to ratings. The case changed how media covers crime. It demonstrated the power of television to shape public opinion, to create narratives that might have nothing to do with reality. It also showed the danger of trial by media. In America, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty, unless you're on television. Then you're guilty until proven innocent. Today's forensic experts look at the JonBenet case with advanced knowledge, improved technology, decades of experience. What do they see? The timeline matters. JonBenet was struck in the head, possibly with a flashlight found at the scene. She was unconscious but alive, brain swelling slowly. 45 minutes to 2 hours later, someone strangled her with the garrote. Whether they thought they were finishing what they started or covering up an accident remains unknown. The DNA evidence that once seemed so promising now seems more complex. Male DNA from multiple sources, some potentially from manufacturing or handling of clothing. But forensic experts agree on one thing. Modern investigation techniques could solve this case. Ground-penetrating radar to search the basement, advanced DNA analysis, digital reconstruction of the crime scene. The question isn't whether the case can be solved, it's whether there's still enough political will, resources, and evidence to do it properly. In the digital age, the JonBenet Ramsey case has found new investigators. Thousands of amateur sleuths pore over evidence online, sharing theories, analyzing photos, creating elaborate timelines. Some discoveries are impressive. Online investigators have enhanced audio recordings, analyzed handwriting with computer software, created detailed floor plans of the Ramsey house. They've identified inconsistencies in witness statements, tracked down obscure suspects, preserved evidence that might otherwise be lost. But online investigation has a dark side. Innocent people are accused based on circumstantial evidence. Conspiracy theories spread faster than facts. The line between investigation and harassment blurs. Some online investigators become obsessed, spending years analyzing every detail, seeing patterns that may not exist. The case consumes their lives as surely as it consumed the original investigators. Yet this digital community keeps the case alive. They pressure authorities for answers, preserve evidence, generate new theories. They won't let JonBenet be forgotten. Perhaps the solution will come from this unlikely source, not from professional investigators, but from someone with a computer, a theory, and the persistence to dig deeper than anyone before. JonBenet Ramsey lies buried in Marietta, Georgia, far from the Colorado home where she died. Her headstone reads simply, JonBenet Patricia Ramsey, August 6, 1990, December 25, 1996. Christ's precious little lamb. 28 years later, her killer walks free. Maybe they're dead by now. Maybe they've confessed to someone who didn't believe them. Maybe they lie awake at night, haunted by what they did. Or maybe they sleep soundly, confident they committed the perfect crime, that they fooled everyone, that they'll never be caught. The case has spawned hundreds of books, documentaries, television specials. It's become bigger than the little girl at its center, a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of America's darkest impulses. But behind all the media coverage, speculation, and theories, a simple truth remains. A 6-year-old girl was murdered in her own home on Christmas night. Someone took her life, destroyed her family, and shattered a community's sense of safety. JonBenet Ramsey would have graduated high school in 2008, college in 2012. She might have pursued entertainment, following her childhood love of performing. She might have become a teacher, a mother, a force for good in the world. Instead, she remains frozen in our memory as a 6-year-old in a sparkly dress, singing and dancing for applause that would never come again. The case teaches us uncomfortable truths about justice, media, family, and evil. It shows us how a single act of violence can ripple through decades, destroying not just the victim, but everyone connected to them. It reminds us that some questions may never have answers. Some crimes may never be solved. Some evil may never face justice. The JonBenet Ramsey case file remains open. Detective work continues, though quietly, without the media circus of earlier years. New technologies emerge regularly. Genetic genealogy has solved other cold cases. Perhaps it will solve this one. DNA databases grow larger each year. Somewhere in those millions of profiles might be the match investigators need. John Ramsey continues to advocate for advanced testing. He's funded private investigations, consulted with experts, never stopped searching for answers. But even if the case is solved tomorrow, some damage can never be undone. Patsy Ramsey died without knowing her daughter's killer. The investigation's early mistakes allowed crucial evidence to be lost forever. JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was more than a murder victim. She was a daughter, sister, friend. She loved performing, playing with her dog, Christmas morning surprises. She was 6 years old when someone took her life. She would be 34 today. In between those two facts lies one of America's most enduring mysteries. Who killed JonBenet Ramsey? The answer is out there, waiting to be discovered. Until it is, her case remains what it has always been. A reminder that evil can strike anywhere, anytime, and sometimes it wins. But as long as people remember her name, ask questions about her death, and demand justice for her murder, JonBenet Ramsey's killer hasn't truly gotten away with it. The case continues. The search for truth continues. And somewhere, someone knows exactly what happened in that house on Christmas night, 1996. If you have any information about the murder of JonBenet Ramsey, please contact the Boulder Police Department. Someone knows the truth. Someone always knows.